You should try and engineer your layoff, because I actually think, like, you're laughing, because I actually think, like, the people who manage to get themselves laid off and get that payoff, particularly if you've got like a 6 months, like notice period, and they pay you off for that notice period, and they pay, like,
you've got time to look for the next job.
Get your monies, man.
Yeah, I agree.
No one knows the future or can predict tomorrow. However, one thing we know for sure is that the decisions we make today about our personal finances will have a knock-on effect on what tomorrow looks like financially. Today we want to explore 10 financial decisions that you may regret 10 years from now.
Now guys, if you like the sound of today's video and if you're a regular viewer of our channels, then we'd really appreciate a massive favour. Please hit that subscribe button. Currently we have 51.9% of viewers are not actually subscribers to our channel. And we want to get that number down to 40%, so we'd really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button and get notified when we publish our videos every week.
Yep, I'm Ken, an accountant, former CFO, entrepreneur and investor.
And I'm Mary, a digital marketer, former e-business analyst and a business owner. Together as a couple, we run the Humble Penny and the Financial Joy Academy with the goal of helping you to take control of your finances, grow your money and achieve financial independence and joy.
Yep, guys, let's jump straight in and explore these 10 financial decisions just now. So what's our very first one?
Yep, so the very first one is overborrowing to buy a house. Now, so many people have overborrowed in order to buy a house because we've had house prices have consistently been rising. But now we have high interest rates and people are struggling to pay their mortgage on a monthly basis. And also you have people who will be coming out of a fixed rate mortgage and they're really, really worried about whether they're going to be able to afford their monthly payments. Now, if you're yet to buy a property, don't spend too much money on a property. Instead, you might want to make some hard decisions like maybe looking elsewhere, moving further out of the city, just so that you can, get a house that you want with an affordability that suits you.
Yeah, that's super important.
Yeah.
All right, the next financial decision is ignoring student loans. Oof. Now, we recently had a story of someone who recently commented on our Instagram, and they were basically saying how they were not going to be looking at their student loans because they just have so much going on in their lives and they don't want to really add another thing to it. Now, the problem with that is that when you have create this habit essentially of not looking at some areas of your personal finances, that habit actually becomes a bit of a virus effectively and just spreads into different areas of your life, because you then start to not do things like opening up your letters and so on. I've seen this personally growing up, even with my parents. There's envelopes that would show up with like, final demand or like whatever showing up, and they just easily stack up. So this is one thing that we wanted to just bring to people's attention. It's something that you definitely do not want to be doing right now as interest rates rise. In fact, there are people right now who are paying in excess of 7% on their student loans, but because they've been ignoring it for so long and they've got so many other things going on, they just don't want to be taking a look at it, and that student loan debt will keep compounding. Now, we of course understand that it's not every single person who will eventually repay all their student loans, but this is actually a pretty important topic with interest rates rising. Key action points are: go and check your student loan balance. Please don't ignore it. Go and see what rate you're paying, how much you owe, and that kind of stuff, and make some decisions. And the second thing we'd say is we've made a detailed video about student loans, which we'll link to below and above for you to go and watch it if you want to make that decision on should I be, trying to pay off my student loan or should I not? We've made a video about that. Please go and check it out. What's our next one?
Okay, so next one is delaying investing in the stock market. Now, we recently had an example of a lady who said she was actually told about investing in her 20s, but she did nothing about it. But now that she's in her 40s, she wants to actually get into investing. And for her, this is a lost opportunity because in the last 20 years, as we've seen, the stock market has increased a lot in those last 20 years. But also, she's missed out on the power of compounding working for her over those 20 years. And the worst part of it is that a lot of people who chose not to invest, years ago, they probably don't have much to show for their money now.
That's real.
So one key thing is, if you're delaying investing, just do it. So we have so many videos we can point to our investing playlist, which we're going to link to above and below for you to check out, where we can take you step by step how to invest in the stock market.
Yep. Our next financial decision is actually on overspending on experiences. Again, thankfully we get so many interactions with you guys, so we actually learn a lot from the comments. And one person actually said that they basically noticed that now that they're earning six figures, they are much more lavish in their spending. Basically, they are much more. They're not budgeting anymore. They're just spending a lot more on experiences and travels and what have you. Now we love experiences and we talk about these kinds of things because they're very important in our lives. But there is a difference between just carefreely spending or overspending on experiences and intentional living, where you're actually planning those experiences and you're budgeting for them. So what we'd say is you need a certain percentage allocated for those experiences such that you can enjoy them guilt-free, right? Even if your income's growing up and that percentage, that's the actual quantity, the amount of money will increase, obviously, because it's a percentage that you're using. I would suggest starting off with around 5% of your net income allocated to you having fun and doing the various things you want to do. But then that can increase depending on your personal circumstances. Like for us, we've had times when it's like 15% or even more, but it began with around that 5% as a percentage to start with.
Yeah, I guess the key thing is just not to let the lifestyle creep kick in.
Yes.
Right?
That's absolutely key.
Yeah.
And tied to that is a video we made actually called 8 Places Your Money Should Go, which I'll link to below and above for you to go and check out what those percentages could look like for your budget.
Okay, so the next one is maintaining an expensive car lifestyle. Now we have another example of somebody who they basically mentioned to us that they bought a car, 10K, a German car, expensive for them. But now they're considering selling it. However, they've realized they've done an assessment and they're going to lose 3K off the value of the car. And they're wondering whether they should sell the car and use it to pay off their debts. They're in debts in the double figures, over 30K.
Over 30,000.
Or should they keep the car because obviously they would have lost a lot of value in the car.
But what was the reason why they bought the car in the first place?
Yes, of course. And so the reason why they bought this expensive car is because they worked very hard all their life and they wanted something to show for it. Now that's obviously, very relatable. We can totally relate to that, and I'm sure many viewers can relate to that.
I've made that mistake.
You have.
So I know.
But then you have to weigh it up, right? If you have debts in the double figures, there's a cost opportunity of spending so much on a property, on a car, when you could have probably used that money to focus on like debts or building up an emergency fund.
So that's interesting. We've there's a video made related to this on cars.
Yes. Check out the video that we've made on cars. We're going to link to it above and below. It just helps you to think more sensibly about buying, spending money on cars.
Just want to ask you guys actually in the comments, can you relate to this idea of emotional spending? Do you spend to feel good about yourself? This is not in any way judgment related, because we've been there and we know. Yeah. Is it something that you do or are currently doing? And do you have certain examples? Please jump in the comments and let us know. Now, our next one is spoiling your children. Oof. Yes. Those of you who are parents or who are aspiring to become parents out there, a big mistake out there is actually spoiling children and giving them whatever they want, whenever they want. That's literally a recipe for disaster, because children can become very entitled very quickly and you can build into them this expectation that they can get what they want when they want, and as a result of that, they might actually not feel the need to work for stuff or to put work, to work hard for stuff or to actually, create that link between effort and reward in a way, to the point where children start to over rely on parents for everything. You know, they want you to give them that stuff or even feel entitled to it.
Exactly, that's the word, which can carry them through to adulthood, which is not a good look.
And what you want to do really is teach children the importance of delayed gratification and the principles around living intentionally and spending intentionally by actually setting the examples for them. So if you're someone who's always, you're not demonstrating to your children that you're actually living by those principles, then those principles are not part of your internal culture. They're not part of like who you are and what you're about. There's no way a child would believe that. But I think if based on our experience, if children actually see, because the children are always observing, they literally copy everything parents see. If your children can actually see you living by those principles, then they're far more likely to live by them. And the last thing you want actually is an entitled child who ends up sticking around because like they've grown into like teenagehood and adulthood, and they've become adults, but then like they just stick around at home. That becomes I hate to say it, but that becomes a bit of a liability, really.
Yeah.
In a way.
Unless they're paying rent or contributing in some way, but still, totally. So the next one is not investing for your children. Now, investing for your children is a great way of capitalizing on compound interest, which works with time. You know, the earlier you invest, the more that compounding can work for your children. Not investing for your children is really a lost opportunity to give them that step ahead. And if you want to start investing with your children, we'd say you can start with as little as possible in a junior ISA, up to 9k a year, or even a junior SIP, where you can invest up to £2,880 a year and you get a £720 top up from the government, essentially free money.
Now, I know this can be challenging for a lot of people because a lot of adults can barely even like invest for themselves. Do you understand? And a lot of people are barely even getting by with their budgets, right? So having the information, I think, is actually a good starting point, which is why we're sharing the information with you guys. But I also think that starting very small, like Mary says, is actually really, really powerful. So even if you can't do 100 quid a month or 200 or whatever it is per month, start with like £50 or even lower. The key thing, I think, is actually to begin that journey of trying to put something aside and then gradually increase it as you see fit. Right, the next one is staying in a job for too long. Do you know what? This is one that a lot of people don't even see as a potentially bad financial decision. Because what happens is when you spend too long in a particular job is it actually makes you more risk averse. Like we've got friends, and I've had this, I've been in a job once for up to 5 years, and I realized after that was actually a big mistake, because what happens is not only do you feel as time passes that you're not growing, and with a lack of growth comes that less of a motivation for you to ask for more money, because like you just feel like, you know what, I've become too comfortable in this space, and like you start to actually feel like you're lucky to have that job. And you start to have that fear of letting that job go, which leads to less confidence to get out there into the marketplace, because you've not been out there seeing what's going on, and you're far less likely to actually get a competitive rate, to be paid the market rate. And this has a knock-on effect on things like your pensions, actually, because some employers, I remember working for an employer many years before they brought in the auto-enrollment, a lot of those employers were just like really just being super cheap, and they were not paying any employees their pensions back then. But a lot of employers go and pay the absolute minimum. You might even think your employer is paying you a decent pension until you look out there and see what else is going on, what other employers are paying out there. So essentially this point here is don't make that financial decision of sticking around. Your employer is not doing you a favor. Get out into the world and see what's up. Get out there and get the best opportunity. Get yourself that job, because for a lot of jobs, the pension is based on your gross salary. You know, so if you're getting that pay rise through another job, then you're also boosting your pension automatically by making that one move alone.
It's interesting though, because you said you were at a job for a long time, and then you said 5 years. But then for some people, that's probably not a long time. So, you know, what is the kind of like maximum duration would you say that people should actually stay in?
I'd probably say if you're... sorry to interrupt. Probably say if you're early in your career, then I'd probably say an average of 2 to 3 years is actually quite sensible, because you can afford to take those risks when you're early in your career. There are no permanent jobs per se, like jobs for life per se. So moving every 2 to 3 years is sensible, because you're always market to market. You're always getting that best rate out there, and your income's actually rising a lot faster, which you need to do anyway when your life has the biggest momentum in your 20s, 30s and 40s. Because trust me, the older you get, the less of a desire you might have to want to keep putting in those long hours to earn and, do the whole corporate career thing. So the earlier you can get that pay rise and grow in your career, and obviously make sure you're investing that money, a big part of that money and what have you, the better for you. So it's like a win-win thing.
Yeah.
Actually not sticking around for too long.
Yeah.
And I know people, I should mention actually, some people go, does that mean you're not being loyal? Right? Because that's the thing. Look, I'll let you guys tell me in the comments whether you think a lot of loyalty from an employment perspective still exists today. Not with the culture of layoffs.
Right.
And tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that get laid off. You just get that email. That email just says, pack your desk, pack up your computer and all your things. And sorry, you're out of here. Are they being loyal to you? No, I don't think so.
In my last corporate job, I was there for what? In the 4 years that I was there were 3 rounds of layoffs, and people who had been there for years, 10 years, 15 years, they got laid off. So it's a tricky one.
That's just what happens.
Be loyal, very loyal whilst you're there.
And layoffs, if you're being very strategic, can actually be a good thing. So you get a really good payoff.
Yeah,
in fact,
if they do it.
In fact, you should. You should try and engineer your layoff, because I actually think, like, you're laughing, because I actually think the people who manage to get themselves laid off and get that payoff, particularly if you've got like a 6 months, notice period, and they pay you off for that notice period, and they pay, that's
you've got time to look for the next job.
Get your monies, man.
Yeah, I agree. So the next one is chasing money at the expense of relationships and fun. Now, it's easy to over-focus on chasing the money, making money, and especially when you've got financial goals that you're working towards, but you're doing that at the expense of spending time with your family, friends. It could be your spouse, your siblings, your children. Or your friends, turn family. There's also a risk of working so much that you don't spend time to enjoy yourself. Too many hours when you're going in early and coming home late, and you're not balancing. You're not making time for fun when you're able to, whilst you're still young and you're fit.
There's a real cost. There's a real cost to all that.
There is a real cost, and spending time with family is a good thing. It helps with your overall happiness. Your joy. It reduces stress. Even it reduces.
Not for everyone though. Some people hate
it depends on your family, but you can choose who your family are. Like I said, friends turn family, but it's a good point. You can choose who you spend your time with, whoever brings you joy, right? The key thing is to have balance. Yes, it's very good to work hard, work towards your financial goals, but it's always important to have balance and not let it be at the detriment of your well-being, your joy and your relationships, which is very important.
Totally agree. All right, next one is not having life and health insurance. Okay.
Wow, it's a heavy one.
Look, I don't need to tell you how important it is to have insurance more generally. But one thing we've learned, in our own personal lives through real life experiences that we've had, very, very, very close real life experiences, is that, life insurance is very important. You need life insurance. If you're someone who has a mortgage or who has dependents, or even if you don't have all those things, it's very important to consider very strongly the need for life insurance, okay? Everyone always thinks, in the next 10 years, I bet you think that your life will carry on, and, so do we, that our lives will carry on, God willing. Everyone, we hope that's the case, and, all of that will, life will always carry on and life will always be better. But as we learn, tomorrow is not guaranteed. Life is very unpredictable. You might be a very healthy person, and then next day something just suddenly happens. No one knows. So think of your loved ones and think, what could their financial situation look like if I was not there any longer? just think about that. Would they be in a good place financially? Would they struggle financially? And if that's the case, if they're gonna struggle financially, why are you not putting in place a life insurance policy?
Yeah.
In many cases, it's actually a great way of creating an element of generational wealth. Because you are trying to help them not struggle basically, but give them that protection in some ways financially. The one about health insurance is an interesting one because in the UK, we've got a National Health Service, but as we know, the NHS is deteriorating in many ways.
Yes, it is.
Try calling for an appointment, whether it's to see your GP or get a dental appointment or whatever. You can't even book any of those things any longer, not like before. So
Yeah.
things are getting worse. And that means that if you think about it, in the next decade, you know, health will obviously keep being a very important aspect of all our lives, if not the most important aspect. But in addition, it will become even harder to get that protection from a NHS perspective. So we've got this on the list because we're saying here is you need to really think about it. Do you need health insurance? We've got health insurance, private health insurance, because we're like, you know, yes, we've got the NHS and we pay our taxes and what have you, but listen, you need like certain backups because you just don't know. And the younger you can get health insurance and life insurance and that kind of stuff, the better because it's cheaper and you also guarantee that you've actually got yourself some cover. Yeah, because a lot of these look at pre-existing conditions and what have you. All this is say, I know things are difficult financially, but think very carefully about your potential need for life insurance and health insurance.
Overall, everything that we do with our finances has a knock-on effect for our future. And we hope today's video has given you some wisdom in terms of some areas to focus on and some financial decisions you want to avoid making in order to not have any regrets in the next 10 years.
Yeah, we know that adulting is hard. Yeah, it's challenging. So we've made a video that you guys should go and check out. 10 things you should be doing now, not later, about your money or your life. This should be coming up on the screen just now. Click through and make sure you watch that video as well. But other than that, if you enjoyed today's video, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, show some love, and let's get those percentages down. Get more people subscribing to our channel. And if you can, obviously hit the like button as well. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. And as always, in all things,
Be thankful and seek joy.
Take care, people. Much love. Bye.